I never thought I'd be that guy. The one sitting in the dark, heart pounding, staring at his phone like it just handed him a death sentence. But there I was, middle of the night, reading the message over and over. Man, I hate to be the one to say this, but you need to check this out. She's at Blue Pines Lounge. Not alone. My grip tightened on the phone. Blue Pines. That place used to mean something to us. It was our little escape back when things made sense. Before the distance, before the silence between us got too loud to ignore. I almost deleted the message, almost convinced myself it was just some mistake or someone messing with me. But something deeper, something primal, kept me from letting it go. I grabbed my keys, chest thudding with every breath, and drove through the quiet streets. The memories came in flashes. How she stopped laughing at my jokes. How she always had one foot out the door. The endless late nights with no explanation. I had gaslit myself for months, chalking it up to paranoia. But this was different. This was real. The second I walked into the lounge, I saw her. Rachel, my wife, my world. She was at the bar, laughing like she hadn't laughed with me in ages. Not alone. Next to her was some guy, leaning in close, hand resting just a little too comfortably on hers. The look on his face, pure confidence, like he knew he'd already won. She didn't even glance around to see if someone might recognize her. She was too busy touching his arm, laughing at whatever he said, running her hand over his chest like it was second nature. That soft, familiar touch, the one she used to give me, was now his. Could have walked up, could have made a scene, demanded answers. But I didn't. I just stood there, watching. Then I pulled out my phone and snapped a picture. Not to get back at her. Not even to confront her. Just to mark the moment. The exact second I knew there was no going back. I left before she ever saw me. Drove home in silence. The next morning, I was already at the kitchen table, staring at a full cup of coffee I had no intention of drinking. Waiting. She strolled in like nothing had happened, muttered morning, and poured herself some coffee. I didn't say a word, just slid my phone across the table. Right then, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, let out a half sigh, and finally looked at my screen. I watched the color drain from her face. Not fear, not guilt, just calculation, cold and emotionless. "You followed me?" she asked, flat as a dead note. I let out a dry laugh. "Followed you? Nah. I just stopped pretending I didn't see what's been right in front of me." She rolled her eyes like I was the one being unreasonable. "You're seriously blowing this out of proportion." That hit me like a punch. "I saw you, Rachel. You were with him, touching him, smiling at him like you used to smile at me. And you think I'm the issue?" She folded her arms, like she couldn't even be bothered. "I'm not your property, Jason." And just like that, the last thread holding us together snapped. I just stood there, frozen. It was the way she said it, like I was some clingy, controlling guy, like I was the one crossing the line. "I never claimed to own you," I said, my voice lower now, colder. "But I thought we had respect. I thought what we had was real." She let out a sharp breath through her nose and gave me this condescending look, like I was throwing a tantrum over nothing. "You're being dramatic," she muttered, brushing past me to grab her purse like she was late for lunch, not walking away from a decade of commitment. And just like that, it was over. For her, anyway. No apology, no guilt, not even a shred of remorse. She didn't deny a thing. She just didn't care. I followed her to the door, my hands trembling from everything I was trying to hold back. "So what now, Sam?" I asked, my voice nearly a whisper. "What do you expect me to do with this?" She turned to look at me, one eyebrow arched like I was some sad little joke. "I don't know. Be a man about it," she said, smirking like she just won. And then she walked out, just like that, like it was nothing, like I was nothing. I stood there, staring at the door long after it closed, the silence screaming at me. And that's when it clicked. She wanted me to lose it. She was counting on me to fall apart, to scream, cry, throw something, beg her to come back. She wanted that emotional chaos, that proof that I still needed her, that she still had control. But what happens when the script changes? When the guy who's supposed to fight just walks away. I took a breath, a long, deep one, and I made my choice right then. She wanted a reaction. I'd give her silence. She wanted me to chase her. I'd let her feel the vacuum of my absence. That would be her reckoning. That would be the regret she didn't see coming. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I didn't plead. That would have been playing her game. And I was done playing. The more I sat with it, the more I saw it for what it was. Her affair wasn't about love or desire, it was about control. Keeping me stuck in a loop where she got to decide when I was up, when I was down. So I did the one thing she didn't expect. I walked away. The morning after she left, I sat there for a while, slowly sipping my coffee. I stared across the table at the empty chair, letting the weight of it all settle in. The lies. The humiliation. The sheer disrespect. Then I stood up, grabbed my laptop, and got to work. First, I handled the money. We had a shared account, but let's be honest, it was mostly my paycheck funding it. She had her own income, sure, but we both knew who paid the bills. I moved every cent that was mine into a private account. Left just enough behind that she wouldn't notice right away. I wasn't trying to start a war, I was just making sure I didn't fund hers. Next, I hit up all the household bills, utilities, rent, credit cards. I unlinked my name from everything. If she wanted freedom, she was about to find out what it actually costs. Then came the apartment. The lease was in both our names, but I was the one footing the rent every month. That was over. I called the landlord, filed notice. "You're breaking the lease early?" she asked, surprised. "Yeah," I said. "Let me know what it costs, I'll take care of my half." I wasn't trying to leave her buried in problems. That wasn't the point. The point was to be gone. I packed my stuff slowly, methodically. Just the essentials, my clothes, my documents, the photos and keepsakes that still mattered to me. Everything else? She could have it. I didn't want reminders. By the time I finished, the sun was already setting. She hadn't called. Hadn't texted. She was still expecting me to blow up, to come crawling. She had no idea I was already gone. The next morning, I woke up early. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel heavy. I moved through my routine like a man unchained. Brushed my teeth. Made breakfast. Got dressed. But this time, I didn't make her a cup of coffee. Didn't leave a note. Didn't pause at the door wondering if she'd care. I'd already locked in a short-term lease, modest, furnished, tucked away on the other side of town. Nothing special. Just quiet. Just mine. I was gone before she even opened her eyes. And then I did something she never expected. I shut my phone off. Not to hide. To watch. To see just how long it would take before she noticed the shift in power. By midday, I flipped the phone back on 6 missed calls, a handful of texts. At first glance, you'd think nothing had changed. She played it cool, casual. A couple "where are you" messages. One even had that nickname she used when everything was good. As if we were still good. I didn't open them. Just let them sit there, untouched. I wasn't giving her the meltdown she was hoping for. No reaction. That was her punishment. Later that evening, a voicemail popped up. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. The first few seconds were filled with muffled background noise, then her voice cut through, sharp, impatient. "Nathan, seriously? You're really not going to answer? Whatever this is, quit being weird. Call me." I laughed out loud. A tantrum? That's what she thought this was? Not a response to betrayal. Not a man reclaiming his pride. Just a sulk. She still believed I was part of her game. That I was playing the role of the wounded husband waiting for his turn to beg. I deleted the voicemail without a second thought. The next day came. No new calls that morning. By lunch, a few more messages rolled in. Her tone shifted, less casual, more clipped. She was losing her grip. Day 3? Anger. She wasn't asking anymore, she was accusing. Demanding to know what I was doing, where I'd gone. Telling me I was being immature. Day 4 was the turning point. The edge in her voice cracked. She started pleading between the frustration. "Why are you doing this? This is stupid. Just talk to me." Still, she didn't understand. She thought I was cooling off. Temporary silence. Then came day 5. Desperation hit like a freight train. The messages came rapid fire. "We need to talk. You can't just disappear." What's going on? It was happening. Regret. She finally realized I wasn't sulking. I wasn't punishing her. I was gone. And that was just the beginning of her unraveling. I imagine the first few days were easy for her. Probably even a relief. No one asking where she'd been. No one waiting up. She likely rolled her eyes at the silence, convinced I was just being dramatic. Told herself I'd crawl back, that I always did. But the silence lingered. A week passed. then another. And slowly it started to sink in. At first, it was subtle. Just the absence. No texts. No calls. No arguments. No presence. Then came the friction, the little things she never paid attention to. The fridge was empty. I'd always been the one to stock it to keep things running. She reached for what wasn't there. The laundry piled up. I hadn't done all of it, but I always folded mine and hers too, most times. Yeah? Nothing. But the real hit came with the bills. She'd never been the one to handle them. Sure, she had income, but I took care of everything on time, without fail. When the first warning notice showed up, she probably brushed it off. A fluke. The second one maybe raised an eyebrow. By the third, the Wi-Fi cut out. And that's when the panic hit. By then, 2 weeks had passed. The messages she sent had taken a new shape. They weren't annoyed anymore. They were pleading. Desperate. She stopped asking where I was. Now she was asking when I'd come back. She never considered that I wouldn't. Because for so long, she believed I'd always be there. That no matter how far she pushed, I'd come chasing. That's what she was used to, me showing up, fixing it, proving myself. But this time, I let her sit in the silence. And she didn't know how to handle it. She'd spent so long telling herself I'd never leave that it had become truth in her head. No matter what she did, I'd still be there. Show up. Forgive. Stay. I was her constant, the fixed point she could spin around while she chased whatever whim felt good at the moment. I was the foundation, unshakable, dependable. Until I wasn't. She never stopped to think what would happen if I just let go. And that's when the real cracks started to spread. The man she left our marriage for, the one she thought was so different, so alive, he wasn't built to last. I'd seen it coming even before she realized it. He was a thrill, a high. Something that felt electric in the moment. But you can't build a life on adrenaline. Eventually, it fades. She was used to the safety net I'd quietly provided, the kind of emotional security you don't notice until it's gone. And now? She was trying to replace it with someone who was never interested in being anything but temporary. I heard he started pulling away. Canceling. Showing up late. Answering her texts with less interest, less urgency. She probably didn't get it at first. She thought he'd be everything I wasn't. The upgrade. That's how the fantasy works, right? But fantasy always fades when reality sets in. And reality had started closing in on her fast. She was alone more than she'd expected. And the silence was getting heavier. A full month passed before I saw her again, not through a call, not even a text. She came in person. I wasn't surprised. I hadn't moved far. Just enough to vanish from her day-to-day, but not enough to disappear completely. I knew she'd come knocking eventually once the excitement dried up and the loneliness hit full force. It was early evening when I heard it, 2 soft knocks, then a third with more intent. I let it hang there. Let her wait. Let her wonder if I'd even answer. Eventually, I opened the door. There she stood. Samantha. But not the version I remembered. Her hair wasn't perfect. Her face had tension lines she used to cover with a smile. Her shoulders were tight, unsure. For the first time in our entire relationship, she didn't look confident. She looked lost. She opened her mouth, but no words came. I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed, saying nothing. Finally, she cleared her throat. Can we talk? I didn't rush to answer. I just looked at her, really looked. The regret was in her eyes now, no longer hidden behind bravado. The shine of her new life had worn off, and what was left was hollow. She wasn't here for closure. She was here hoping I'd fix it again. Talk about what? I asked. Her lips parted, then shut again. I saw her thinking, searching for something meaningful to say. I half expected an apology, some teary-eyed confession. But it didn't come. Not yet. She wasn't ready to own it. Instead, she exhaled and said, "You really just left." I shrugged. Thought that's what you wanted. She looked away, muttering under her breath, "I didn't think you'd actually." Then she stopped, shook her head. Never mind. I waited, but that was it. She had nothing. No explanation. No defense. Because she knew. She just hadn't fully accepted it. She thought if she showed up, I'd fold. That hearing her voice would pull me back in. That somewhere inside, I still needed to save us. She was wrong. I let the silence drag on, let it make her squirm the way I had, alone in my own head for weeks. And then I said what she never expected to hear. You should go. Her eyes snapped up. What? I think we're done here. She blinked, stunned. She had come here expecting something, control, redemption, something familiar. But all she got was the same emptiness she'd left behind. And in that moment, for the first time, I saw it, true regret. Not the kind you fake to win an argument. Real, bone-deep regret. The kind that breaks something inside. But it was too late. I stepped back and closed the door. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. She didn't leave right away. I stood there, just behind the door, listening, waiting. At first, there was nothing. Then the sound of a faint shift, a soft exhale, hesitation. I could picture her on the other side, frozen, staring at that door like it betrayed her, trying to make sense of how she lost the upper hand. For once, she wasn't the one walking away. That moment of power slipping through her fingers. It had to sting. She wasn't used to that. She had always been the one to leave, to end things on her terms. But this time, she was the one left standing in silence. The one with no control. Finally, I heard her footsteps retreat. Slow, uneven. The hollow click of her heels on the floor. The reluctant sound of someone who didn't want to go but knew they weren't welcome. And just like that, she was gone again. But this time, it wasn't me waiting for her to come back. This time, I was the one who had walked away. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. That reality would settle in, and she'd finally stay gone. But I should have known better. A week later, she tried again. Started small. A text. Just one word, hey. I didn't answer. A few hours later, how have you been? Still nothing. Then, 2 days later, she sent something different. More direct. More vulnerable. I know I messed up. Can we talk? Please. That last word, please, stood out. Not because I thought she meant it, but because she never imagined she'd have to say it to me. I could see her now, sitting alone, phone in hand, second-guessing every word. That desperate silence she used to weaponize? It was aimed at her now. She was the one waiting. I wasn't responding. A few more days passed. Then she escalated. A call. I watched her name light up on my screen. Didn't touch it. Let it ring out. A few seconds later, voicemail. I didn't rush to listen. I waited. Hours, maybe. When I finally played it, her voice was different. No attitude, no cold edge. Just lost. Nathan. I don't even know what to say. A long pause. I miss you. Okay. I miss us. I didn't realize how much until now. Another pause. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I don't know. I just needed to talk. She let out a sigh, and for a second I thought I'd hear her break down. But she didn't. Instead, she finished with a quiet, shaky, call me back. And then, silence. I sat there, phone in hand, staring at the screen. My face didn't move. My chest didn't tighten. There was no surge of anger or sadness, just a flicker. The briefest trace of something that might have once mattered. But it vanished before I could even recognize it. Because I knew the truth. This wasn't love. This wasn't remorse. This wasn't about rebuilding what we lost. It was fear, regret, the cold panic of someone realizing they'd thrown away something solid for something fleeting, and coming up empty-handed. She didn't miss me. She missed what I gave her. The safety, the stability, the kind of love you only realize mattered when it's too late. And I wasn't that man anymore. She didn't stop trying. A few days later, I bumped into someone we both used to know. A mutual friend, someone who hadn't picked a side, at least not publicly. The look on their face told me everything. They hesitated, then finally said, "She's not doing great." I shrugged. "Not my problem." "I know," they said quickly. I think she regrets it. All of it." I let out a low, tired laugh. "Regret's useless if it only shows up after the damage is done." They didn't argue, because they knew I was right. And deep down, I think she did too. Then came another call. Another voicemail. This one was different, more raw. Less pride, more panic. "I just don't get it. Nathan." Her voice cracked with frustration. "How can you just walk away like this? After everything?" I could hear it bubbling beneath her words. Confusion, disbelief, fear. Because she still didn't understand. She still thought this was temporary. Maybe I owed her something. An explanation, a moment, closure. But if I did, she had already spent it. She cashed it in the night she chose someone else. The truth was, she walked away from me long before I ever returned the favor. She made her bet with full confidence that I'd be waiting on the other side. That I'd be there, arms open, ready to forgive. And now she was stuck, standing in the ruins of her own decisions, finally realizing she couldn't rebuild what she'd so carelessly shattered. What really ate at her was that I wasn't playing along. I wasn't letting her rewrite the ending. I wasn't giving her the win. So I stayed silent. Not because I didn't have anything left to say, but because I had already said it all, when I walked out that door and never looked back. She just didn't listen then. Now she could sit with the silence. Because that was my answer. And it was driving her crazy. You could see it in her messages. Each one more frantic than the last. The tone that started off cocky turned confused, then angry, and finally, unraveled. Every unanswered text, every missed call was her trying to pull me back into her world, into the fight. But I wasn't going back, because that's all it had ever been for her, a power play, an emotional tug-of-war. But I had dropped the rope, and without control, she was unraveling. 2 months. That's how long it took for everything to come crashing down. At first, she put on the show, going out, smiling for selfies, pretending like she was winning. Like she had moved on. But people talk. And behind the photos was a different story. Her finances were in freefall. She hadn't realized how much I had handled, how much of our life had quietly rested on my shoulders. Groceries. Rent. The little things that keep the wheels turning. Now they were falling apart. She wasn't going out as much. The polish started fading. And the guy she had bet everything on? Gone. He wasn't built for the long haul. He was a thrill, and thrills don't stay when things get real. She gave up everything for him. And he left her with nothing. Then came the night I knew she'd hit bottom. I had just gotten home. My new place, my new life, a life that didn't feel like I was constantly bracing for impact. I was finally at peace. I set my bag down and heard it, a knock. I didn't even have to guess. I stood there for a moment, debating. Part of me wanted to leave her standing out there. Let her feel what it's like to be locked out. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened the door. And there she was. But she wasn't the same woman. The confidence, the arrogance, it was gone. Her makeup was rushed, uneven. Her clothes were nice, but thrown together, not styled. Her hair had that look like she'd run her hands through it too many times, trying to pull herself together. But it was her eyes that hit hardest. They weren't cold anymore. No pride. Just emptiness. She looked like someone who had been pretending for too long and finally ran out of energy. She swallowed hard. Can I come in? The word came out of me before I even thought about it. No. She blinked, stunned. Like she hadn't even considered the possibility that I might not let her in. That this wouldn't be as simple as a conversation. She tried to smile, weak and forced. Come on, Nathan. Just for a minute. I shook my head. There's nothing left to say. Her smile wavered. The cracks were showing. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I miss you. I miss us. There it was. The confession she'd been fighting. The regret that had been eating her alive. And if she had said those words months ago when it mattered, maybe I would have believed them. Maybe they would have meant something. But now they were just noise. Echoes from a version of her I no longer recognized. I leaned against the doorframe, just watching her. Letting the silence fill the space where her power used to live. She stood there waiting, hoping I'd cave. That I'd soften. That I'd pull her back into my life and let her believe, even for a second, that she still mattered. But I didn't. Instead, I let out a quiet breath. I don't think you miss me. Her brows pulled together, confused. What? I shook my head slowly. I think you miss what I gave you. The stability. The reassurance. Knowing that no matter what you did, I'd be there, holding everything together. She opened her mouth like she was about to push back, but nothing came out. Because deep down, she knew I was right. It was never me she missed. It was the life I had created around her, the peace, the reliability, the safety net she thought would always be there. She exhaled, shaky now. Can't we at least, eh? No, I cut her off before she could finish. There was no at least. No almost. No redo. What was broken couldn't be unbroken. For a second, her eyes glistened. She looked like she was fighting to keep it together. Then she nodded just once. She took a step back, swallowed hard, clutching her purse like it was the only solid thing left in her life. And then she turned. She walked away slowly. And this time, I didn't watch her leave. I closed the door. And I never looked back.